talking with the one and only Clarissa Amber. We're going to get into some other names later, but you're going to have to stay tuned for that. So we were just previously talking, and one of the last things that you talked about was kind of like the spiritual, I guess, component or element to music and its benefit. So there was something I read in your bio, okay? So in her bio, y'all, it says, after a pivotal moment, that's like the word for today, okay? Pivotal moment and a word from her spiritual father, Dr. Nathaniel Duffy III. You got all these thirds and juniors in your life, all these lives. Anyway, I digress. She got the revelation, okay, that all music can and should be used to glorify God and uplift people. This was the moment that, you know, she pulled on all her influences and began singing R&B and soul in a nightclub, launched as an outreach by her church at that time. The regular crowd at that club gave her the name Sweet Tea. I love that name. Okay, and she became the artist known as Sweet Tea. She was very sweet and is very sweet to this day. And, you know, and she talked the tea, y'all, which we can talk the tea too. To those who got the opportunity to attend her live shows from 2014 to 2018. So I love this because I feel like that is a conflict that is common among people that really have a heart to want to, like, you know, just do right before God and live a life that's just pleasing. You know what I mean? Not perfect. Yeah. But, you know, just trying to live a certain way, but yet they still are drawn to music. Yeah. And not necessarily the, you know, come by Jesus, do it. You know what I mean? Like, they don't necessarily do traditional gospel music. And so that ends up being like a conflict that sometimes will be a hindrance from somebody moving forward with what they've been gifted with. So can you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, it sounds like it was a freeing time. Yeah. You know, when you got that word, was it an unexpected thing? Were you like seeking God to like find out the direction of where you should go with your music, or what?
I'm going to be transparent.
Yes.
I had an earthquake in my life. I had my son, who was, at the time, he was about 7 months old, and my marriage fell apart. And I had a very small child. And it just put me in this place where I was like crying out to God for, like, what is my life? Like, I have 2 kids. I'm about to be a divorcee. And my life was on this trajectory, and it broke. It wasn't working. And me and my husband separated, and I was raising the 2 kids, and I got a word that I was a star, and that God had given me all kinds of music, and that I could use it to get through that, like, super dark time. And I did. And what I ended up writing was not gospel. It's funny because I was asked to come to my church, which my church was very liberal and extremely, like, focused on growing people spiritually and not just following the rules. I mean, I'll be transparent. They weren't like the skirt got to be down to the ankle. That it wasn't legalist. Yeah. And it was very freeing for me to be in that environment at that time. And they asked me to come sing something. And in fear and trembling, I sang Sharee in front of my church. And I sang The Kiss of Life. And people started weeping tears because I was singing that song to the Lord. When I was led to you, I knew you were the one for me. I swear the whole world could feel my heartbeat. And I sang it as a worship song, and everyone cried. And I knew at that point that music is music. Like, and every song I sing, whether it's Shaka Khan, Sade, I'm singing to him. I'm singing him. And I think people feel that. It makes there's a different thing that happens when you're worshiping and not just singing something. And I realized if you're a worshiper, you're gonna worship him in spirit and in truth with whatever is on the track, and it did things to people, and people would come up to me after, like, I don't think I've ever heard it that way. Wow, and it gave me purpose in like one of the hardest times of my life. It gave me a purpose and something to hold on to and something to heal from, So yeah, I wrote my EP at that time, and my EP was, girl, I just told all my business. I told all my business. I wrote a song about my ex-husband. I wrote a song about a new little something. I was talking so much mess on that EP, but it healed me. It like helped me to heal, and from there forward, I was addicted to worshiping this way. I had always, I think, when we were in choir, I love to worship in gospel, and I still do. I'm not saying I don't sing gospel, but I feel like my calling was solidified when I was able to sing to him those songs. It broke some chains off me, and I've never put it back on.
Yeah. Once you get free, you can't go back. Like, it's impossible.
And I'm not gonna say people didn't disagree with those choices. And there were people who, pieced out of my life because as a result, and that's fine, But I gotta do me, And the Lord increased the numbers of people following me and increased me as a result. And so I felt like it was God led, and He blessed it. So do me.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I was thinking of something when you were talking, and it just escaped me. No, it's back now.
It's back.
Okay, so you're talking a lot about music and its effect on you, spiritually.
Yeah.
But I guess my question is, because one of the things that we focus on is helping artists find their stability, like their spiritual stability. Because we think that's like key, So, outside of the music, what else would you say has been like a stabilizing force for your spirit as you have like journeyed in your life?
Well, I think that everybody needs to have spiritual marriages. And when I say spiritual marriage, it's people who you are married to in the spirit, people you could talk spirit, who can counsel you. You were that person for me in college. I was like your spiritual child, and we were like in college. We learned the gospel together, and we were, learning the faith movement at that point. And there are people who God connects you with, who like help you grow. Yeah. And so for me, it was the ministry that I was a part of. My spiritual father, he poured a lot into me and set me free from a lot of things. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2016. He passed away in 2016, and that kind of rocked my community. We ended up in the middle of like this split. But I stayed close to those. I stayed close to that community, and I call it my spirit fam. But I think that you need people who are like-minded, close to you. People who you can call to pray and be available to pray for them. People who you can study the Word with. People who see it the way that you do. I think that's really important. I think it's important to have a community.
And how long did it take you to realize that? You know it now, but at what point in time did you realize that this is what I need to be spiritually stable?
it's like you said. I mean, honestly, would I even know the Lord if I wasn't under that piano in my mom's choir? That was a community. We found community at Syracuse, which stabilized us. I mean, I didn't even know you was gonna leave, girl.
We found out all kinds of stuff about ourselves.
I didn't even know, but that I mean, that's always what it becomes, right? I mean, I think that you can try to go out and be a maverick and do God on your own, but I think what you'll find is isolation. You'll find loneliness, and then you'll find people trying to push you here and there and everywhere. And if you just have like a spiritual community that is a foundational support for you, people who you can trust, I think that there's nothing greater than that. And I learned that young, you know. And when you get older, you're like, oh, that's why my mama took me to church. That's why, you know.
Something about what you just said also made me think of like, it's kind of like these moments that just keep happening, and it's like you don't even necessarily know that they're happening when they're happening,
right?
But you have a sense of it. You know what I mean? Like it there's something about it that sits with you, stays with you, feels good, and then as you keep going, you're like, that's what that was, and I recognize this feeling, and you know, like this is good.
Yes, run towards the good. No, my pastor used to say, "Follow the peace, honey."
Follow the peace. That's
follow the peace.
I'm always like, be led by the peace. If you don't have a peace about something, that's already indication.
That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You either don't do it or you need to wait.
Or you need to stop.
Anyway, we're gonna start doing something else on here. Okay. So, all right. So, would you say that you feel like you're in a good, like you are spiritually stable, like now? Do you feel spiritually stable, and do you feel like once you get there, that like it's just gravy, you'll just always stay there?
I think that that's a tricky question. What I've learned in my walk is that, you know, God's grace is completely sufficient. You're not holding him up. He's upholding you. And so I know that I'm upheld. But it does involve choice. It's predestination and election. Like his will for your life is blessings. But you have to choose. You got to choose him. You know?
Yeah.
So there's a reciprocity in your relationship with heaven. You know, and like people just went, Lord, just do it. I mean, like, what you gonna do? What you gonna do for him? You know, and it's not like he requires that, because salvation's a free gift. But you know, like, he loves to be loved. He loves to be worshipped. You know, so like I have a relationship at this point. I'm old, like we in this